When women dare to fully be themselves, to rise up as the divine beings they are, to operate in their magic, their sexuality, their power, they are always labeled one thing: wicked. Hi guys, it's been a while since I've recorded an episode. I've been insanely busy in the throes of motherhood, trying to make time for everything. I have been also debating what I want to talk about next, and it keeps coming across my mind to be finally sharing my story of what has actually gone on in the past couple years since giving birth to my son. I have interviewed some lovely ladies in this process when I started season 2, and I listened to their stories very closely, as I'm sure you guys did too. And I really am just in awe of what women go through on this earth. It's truly insane. And I I myself have been having a struggle with debating, is it safe or not to share my story? And when it comes down to it, I feel like it's bullshit that I should feel unsafe to share it. And so I'm tired of remaining silent in the process in fear of whatever thing that I'm imagining could happen. And I will face that fear like I tell every other woman in my coven, in my shadow work programs to continually do, because I will always, at the end of the day, walk my talk. So, uh, the reason why I want to share this story so much and to actually finally get it off my chest is because it's freeing to do so. And I actually think at the end of the day that this will help so many women realize how strong they are and what they are fucking capable of, even though they should never have to be capable of these things. What women go through postpartum when they are becoming mothers, the dissolution that happens to their identity while they are completely caring for another being, should be something that is pedestalized in our society, and it is not. Most women struggle so hard during postpartum because there is nothing set up and there is no honor, where they are not taken care of and they are just left to figure it the fuck out. Our society today is so sick because the mothers are sick, because we are not taken care of. We are burnt toast. We are constantly pouring from empty cups, and there is nothing being poured into us. And if that, our cup has a hole at the bottom, so even when people try to pour into us, it comes out of the holes. When I decided to have a second baby with my soon-to-be ex-husband, we talked about it for a while. It's not like it was just some one-off decision. We were married for 7 years. I watched him be a stepfather to my son, and he was an amazing one. And you guys who have been following me for a long time also watched that. So this was not about some bullshit that I will never allow society to do, is to label women like it's their fucking fault and victim shame. Men are very good at what they do, and they hide things until the right moment. True narcissists generally don't show face until either marriage happens or a baby is on the way. The latter is obviously my case. So when we talked about this and decided to have another baby, we were both very excited. Now, once my belly started showing and pregnancy became a very real thing, now he was great in the beginning. But once that belly started popping and this became real, the emotional abuse started. And he became more and more distant. And by the end of my pregnancy, in that last trimester, he was so emotionally abusive to me, I was completely losing touch with who I was. I'm not going to get into a lot of the bullshit scenarios that happened because it's pointless to go over those, because what I want to focus here is postpartum and what happened. So, going through all of the emotional abuse I was enduring at the end of my pregnancy, there was times where I was coming in and out of terms with, how could this be happening to me? Like, this is not going to last. Like, how can he be treating me this way when I am about to give him a baby? This is the most heartbreaking things for women to experience. The highest honor and the highest gift a woman can do is give somebody a baby. We are literally taking a spirit from the void and putting it in human form and birthing it into this Maya, this illusion, this matrix. And it is looked at like it is no big deal and that you're supposed to just pop out a baby and go back to business as usual as if nothing has just happened in your life. There is no space held for mothers. And especially if you are in an abusive dynamic, the isolation gets 10 times worse. And a lot of this happens is because there is shame and guilt around what is actually happening. Because who wants to say, we were so happy in having a baby and now my husband is abusing me? Nobody wants to say that. It's even hard to come to terms with, and you will start gaslighting your own self as you are being gaslit, because that's what was happening to me. I was constantly being gaslit that I'm overreacting and that I'm just too sensitive and it's my pregnancy hormones. No, it's not. I was being emotionally abused. So once Zion was born, uh, things got way worse, way worse. And essentially, what happened is I was being punished for making my baby the center of my world and not making my narcissist husband the center of my world anymore. And so, because all of my attention was going to the baby and I needed him to step up and be a man and take care of me so that I could properly take care of our son, instead, what happened was I got abused and punished for that. And he would purposely not help me with the baby. He purposely would sleep in a different room. When I would ask him to do something like change a diaper, he would get up and leave. There's so many things that were constantly happening that was putting me and my baby in continual risk that he would laugh about. And he would do what he could to make sure I was under the highest stress possible while I was already under the highest stress taking care of a baby. When Zion was a baby, he never slept. I was lucky to get little 10-minute increments across the night. He had a lot of attachment issues, and a lot of that came from the stress that I was under while he was in the womb. And he was constantly nursing and breastfeeding and waking me up. And like I said, maybe little 10-minute increments of sleep I was getting over the course of the night. I was exhausted. It got to the point where when I was walking the baby in the stroller and I was with my older son, I was trying to get some fresh air and get outside because now I'm dealing with extreme anxiety, postpartum depression that's amplified because of my situation, a husband who is out doing God knows what, never coming home and never helping with the baby. And I was so sleep deprived trying to figure out, because I was also homeschooling Malachi at the time, I was trying to figure out how to do it all and then still somehow manage to take care of myself and eat so I can have breast milk and feed this baby and nurture this baby and care for my other son and run a household. And it was so overwhelming and stressful under such extreme sleep deprivation. When we were outside for the walk, I got such bad vertigo that I almost fell over. And I wasn't sure what to do in that moment. I was like in this illusionment of panic. I don't know how else to call it. Extreme situations were running in my mind. Like, we lived in the middle of nowhere on a dirt road. There was constantly, we had just seen bears a couple hours prior to that walking down our street in broad daylight. So I'm thinking, like, there could be bears over here in the woods. I have my two kids. I couldn't even stand up. I'm like, do I continue to push the stroller because I'm going to fall over and tip and the baby will fall? Should I not be hanging on to the stroller? What do I do with my son? There's all of these things just racing in my head. And I was so exhausted. Finally, I was able to get home and I called my husband at the time and I was telling him what had just happened to me. And he couldn't give two shits. He went on talking about how tired he is from being at work. So there was so much more that began to unfold during this time that was leading up to, I don't know what to call it, the grand finale of things. But there was just so much like emotional abuse and punishment for I don't know what. For I don't know what. And he was very, very bitter and resentful towards me because I could not work and bring in money anymore. So I'm in a very vulnerable position because I no longer have my own income. I'm completely reliant on a man that is abusing me and is putting me in some very bad situations. It reached a point where I could no longer drive because I was so disassociated and so extremely exhausted. My parents once in a while would come pick me up to try to help a little bit, but even that was so few and far between. I really had nobody coming to help me. So, as things continually and progressively got worse, when felt the most afraid and when things started, I want to say it's because I was still in the disillusionment of how could this be happening? I just went from being so in love for 7 years to being in this dynamic. It just made no sense. And on top of that, continually getting gaslit over and over again in the extreme tiredness of postpartum, I was constantly questioning my reality. Like, am I really making this up or is it real? And what really started to solidify the reality of what was happening to me was when I had gone out to my car to get my headphones because the only way that I could sleep was by playing music. And when I walked back in the house, he held his AR up to me and he had a stream light on it and he shined it in my face. So I had no idea what he was doing and I couldn't see him. And I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he laughed and he said, "Oh, I thought you were just somebody breaking in." No. I went in my room that night and sobbed and locked the bedroom door because I was so afraid. I was like, this man has lost his fucking mind and thinks it's funny that he just held a gun up to me while I was coming into the house. And so, so much was starting to clarify to me in that moment. But then there was still the excessive gaslighting of you're making a big deal out of nothing. Yeah, like you're making like this, it's funny. He's like laughing about it. So, finally, there is some things in the story that I don't want to share about right now, and mostly it's because I'm still in the court system. So one day I will share even more depths of this. But when when shit really hit the fan and we were dissolving and he was moving out, you know, I had to remove all his stuff from the house. Thank God that my girl Trisha was, a lot of you guys know her, was here to help me because I had nobody at that point. She was helping me to pack his, I literally couldn't even move my arms. I remember how heavy my arms felt. Like I couldn't believe what was happening. I couldn't resonate to me that I'm losing everything right now. And I was so scared because I knew I was going to be left with two children and nothing. I shut my business down to have this baby. I had no of my own money in the bank account. Everything was done on his card. And so he left. Trisha helped me. And while I was clearing out his things, I come across a bunch of syringes and steroids that are right there and labeled. And so I'm realizing that this whole time he has been using steroids, and this is probably why he's going crazy or whatever is happening, even though I'm absolutely not going to blame everything on that. So I called his family to let them know what was going on, and they were not surprised at all because what I was finding out was that apparently he also did this to his first wife. And they gave me all of the stories. I talked to her of everything that went down out of state because he was in New York that I had no idea about. And I will never forget what his sister said to me. The Joe that you experienced was new to us. The one you're describing right now is the one we all know. And in that moment, I was petrified because I was like, who the fuck did I marry? I have no idea who this man is. And he had all kinds of things that had gone on in New York, and they had to call CPS and all these things, and I had no idea. So I was scared. And I reached out to a friend of mine who works at the sheriff's department here, and I asked her what to do. I told her how scared I was, and I didn't even want to call her because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody what was going on in my life, but I just kept feeling that nudge, like just fucking call her. So I reached out to her, and she's like, hang in there. I'm going to have a deputy call you to give you free legal advice because I don't know the laws around this. So I said, okay, thank you. She works in dispatch. So I took the kids outside for a little bit. I came back in. I saw that I had a missed call and the deputy had called me. So in my head, I'm like weighing up and down, like, do I call back now? Do I try to do it later? Do I just like all I was just so disillusioned of everything that was happening. Everything felt like a big choice that I had to make, and it was very hard to make it. Any of you that has experienced postpartum anxiety to any degree, I know you understand what I'm talking about. So having the pressure of everything that was going on top of it was making me feel like I couldn't make the simplest of decisions. So I decide, I'm like, I'm gonna call him back right now. So I said, Malachi, please just sit with your brother on the couch. So Zion was um 10 months old at the time. And I said, please sit with your brother on the couch. I'm gonna put a show on and mommy needs to make a phone call. So I go in the bedroom to make a phone call. I'm looking in the living room out at Malachi and Zion. And I'm on the phone with the sheriff and I'm asking him questions like this and I'm telling him what's going on. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. I'm really scared. I feel like I don't even know who this man is. As I'm on the phone with him and he's talking to me about what is true legally of what I am and am not allowed to do, my front door, which was locked, busted open. It was ripped open and made the loudest bang. And in comes Steroid Joe into the house. I run out into the living room. He grabs Zion from Malachi. And while he's holding Zion, he comes at me to physically attack me. And he pushes me up against the refrigerator. I'm on the phone with the sheriff while this is happening. And I am screaming into the phone, please help me. He's here. He's attacking me. The sheriff says I'm dispatching other sheriffs now. Hang up and call 911. So I hang up and call nine. This is all happening in milliseconds. I the imagery that I will never forget is staring at Zion in his arms and Zion making eye contact with me and just screaming and crying. And I remember Joe's face, beet red, red eyes, screaming in my face. And I'm looking at Zion and I'm seeing the trauma resonate in his body as he's witnessing what's happening to his mother. And then I look over to see what is happening to Malachi. And he's running in circles in the living room with his hands like this, like he didn't know what to do or what was going on, just running in circles. And then he stops and throws up because he's so scared. When Joe realizes that I'm on the phone with 911 and I'm screaming into the phone, he goes to run out the door and just tosses Zion onto the couch and he leaves. And so a bunch of sheriffs show up. I file my report and then I have to go and file a restraining order. Um, During this next process, I don't think I ever felt so fucking alone. And again, I need to give a shout out to Trisha because she was the only one there for me um through this entire process. My own parents wouldn't help me. I was told I was being too emotional about the situation, and I ended up cutting them off because I couldn't handle the things that they were saying to me about the situation when all I needed in that moment was help and to be loved from my own parents while I was going through something so traumatic. So I thank the gods every day that they sent me Trisha, because I don't know where I'd be without her. And this is when I truly started understanding just how important female community is. Because when women support other women, they become family. And you're unstoppable because when you can't, somebody else will step up for you and they will. And that was proven to me. And as this continued on, more and more women that I have worked with over the last 10 years, people in my mentorship programs, in my covens, ones that I've just done readings for, as they began finding out what was happening, they all started stepping up and doing things to help me. So I got awarded my restraining order. And the only reason I got awarded the restraining order was because of the timing. Because the sheriff that was on the phone came and testified for me. And our stories matched completely. And the timing for it to happen when it did, down to me missing the call, deciding, debating, it was down to the second. And I feel very watched over and protected because of all of that. So I was immediately cut off financially, which is actually illegal in the state of Florida. Um, he left. I had no money to feed the kids. Um, he did not care because narcissists don't actually care about their children. They care about appearances and they care about themselves. And his constant trying to punish me and be malicious towards me, it doesn't even click in his head that it's affecting his children or his child, his biological son. He reversed the electricity bill that was paid at the house that month, saying that it was that he didn't approve. So that was a whole ordeal. I got red flag at the electric company. I had no money for food. The only reason my children ate was because Trisha was buying us groceries. I did apply for food stamps. It took, I believe, 3 months to get approved for food stamps, and that was I was on the emergency list getting approved. Um, so legally in the state of Florida, he's supposed to still be paying all the rent and bills that he was paying, and he didn't. Um, I had his debit card on Apple Pay. I went to Target. I bought diapers and food for Zion. Immediately when that charge went through, he removed his debit card from my phone. So he did not care if there was diapers, if there was food, if there was nothing. So, um, in the restraining order, he was awarded daytime visitation 4 days a week. That didn't even last a month. Um, he would always bring Zion back filthy dirty. He, there's just so many things that I could say right now. Um, I will never forget when he came out of because we had to meet in a grocery store parking lot in a public place where there was cameras. He came out of the grocery store with a bunch of groceries and put them in his car and didn't even think to ask if me, Malachi, or Zion needed anything when he knows damn well that I was reliant on his finances. I had no way to pay rent. I had to start selling things. Luckily, I had invested in crypto years before. Markets were at an all-time low. So I had to sell everything at a 80% loss. But it paid my rent 1 month. And I was any way to make money to try to get ends meet at that point is what I was trying to do. A lot of you guys actually ordered geomancy readings that year from me, and you guys that ordered them were the only reason why I had a home and roof above my fucking head. So thank you for that. I had women in the coven that were, paying extra for things, that they were sending me gifts. They were all kinds of stuff that they were stepping up to do for me. And in the 2 years that this has been transpiring, I can't even tell you the amount of women that have stepped up. Um, one of my Actually, this one morning I was on my way to tell the landlord that I don't have rent. I was short by $1,000. And right before I was to leave the house, um, a client and, family friend of mine messaged me if I had time for an emergency reading. And I said, yeah, that's fine. So in my head, I'm like, okay, like $75, right? So I'm doing her reading and she asks me how I'm doing. And I couldn't contain it at that point. I was constantly having the dread of homelessness over my head. And I just broke down and I told her what was going on. She didn't even pause. While I was telling her the story, she sent me the $1,000 that I needed for rent. And she just said, pay it back when you can. Don't worry about it. And the things that continually transpired and still do over this time period, it just shows me that building a community of women is worth it because they'll always fucking be there for you. They will be there for you when your family won't be. When I paid the rent, I told the landlord what was going on. Her response to that was to 2 weeks later text me that she's raising the rent by $500. I was like, okay. I literally just told you that I lost everything and that I'm scared. And I was asking you if it's okay if I find a roommate. And you're like, she actually suggested it to find a roommate. And I was sobbing to her about everything that was going on. So I knew I couldn't stay there. And I was also very afraid. I didn't know where to go with my kids. I didn't know what was going to happen. I tried reaching out to my family, and their response was to send me the phone number to the local homeless shelter. And the feeling of aloneness and rejection and abandonment that came with that shook me to my core. That my own family would rather see their daughter and grandkids in a homeless shelter than, I don't know, it just felt like almost another act of punishment, which I had already been enduring. Like, I didn't do anything here. All I did was bring life into this world. And why am I being treated this way? So I had to just keep focusing on everything that was happening. So I was in my spirit room one day and I was praying, and a woman who I'm like acquaintances with here in town, her face kept flashing in my head. So I decided to reach out to her. She's a realtor. And I said, hey, do you know anybody that is like, this is Naples, everybody rich here, they all have guest house. I was like, do you know anybody that has an empty guest house that I can, me and the boys can stay in? I was telling her my situation. She's like, I don't, but I'll ask around. So I'm just trying to trust the process of everything. I'm like, it's been a couple months. I'm still somehow floating and surviving. Um, it was like 8 or 9 days after I had reached out to her. She calls me and she's like, "Are you still looking for a place to live?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, a friend of mine just reached out to me and she's looking to sublease a condo that she just rented for her son last month. He's randomly moving to the other coast and she can't break the lease and she wants to sublease it." I was like, "For real?" I was like, "How much?" She's like, $2,500 a month, but I told her you can only afford 800 and she said okay. I was like, "What?" I was like, "This woman doesn't even know me. She's willing to pay the majority of the rent to help me get on my feet." I've never met this woman in person who was originally leasing the condo. I'm speechless now. And I was just beside myself. So me and the boys got to move into this condo that we are still in today. Now, right before this happened, I'm trying to remember the timeline of all of this. Right before this happened, um, Joe had some kind of manic episode, ended up in the hospital. He was back drinking again, so he was binge drinking on top of using the steroids, whatever. And he was sending me text messages that he was like joining the Ukrainian military and he was gonna deploy to Russia and go get shelled in a hole. That's like the exact text. Um, and then he started sending me text messages trying to bribe me to drop the restraining order. And he was saying, "I will give you money and financially support you if you drop the restraining order." Why the one thing that's protecting me from you would I drop that? And so it's proof that he was financially manipulating me. So I reported him because that's obviously a violation of the injunction, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. And so when this happened, he fled the state and he went back to New York. Um, I haven't seen or heard from him, nor has he checked in on his son in about 2 years now. Um, Safer for everybody. Now, he left, I believe it was in May. By that October, I had received messages on my TikTok account from somebody, a female, who messages me and says, "Your husband lives at this address. Serve him the paperwork. He deserves it." I was like, "Who the fuck are you?" And apparently, she has been thinking about reaching out to me for a long time. And I suddenly start appearing on her For You page every single time she opens up TikTok. So she goes and tells me everything that has been going on in New York, how she like met him through Tinder while he was still here in Florida. He moved in with her. He was a mess. He ended up in and out of the hospital just like he was doing down here. And she comes to tell me that she works at a shelter up there for women who are victims of domestic violence. So I'm just in shock. I'm like, what level of pick me do you have to be at that you work in a domestic violence shelter for women and you are assisting a man who has DV charges? So she's telling me how she's apologizing, saying how stop posting your kids on social media. He was having me take screenshots of your Instagram and TikTok and send it to him so he could see you guys and where you are and what you're doing, and he's going to have other people doing it. All of this stuff that she's telling me. And she just kept saying how it's not because I'm bitter towards him. I just really need to do this for you. No, no. If y'all were still together, you'd still be doing it. So I was mortified that a woman who's supposed to be protecting women was assisting a violent man. So I screenshotted all of that. I still have it, of course. I have every single receipt for everything that I am telling you guys. Um, and I was really beside myself with all of this, but I kept all the information she gave me, and there was a fucking lot. She confirmed that he's still on steroids, confirmed that he's still drinking, confirmed a lot of other nasty shit. Um, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna eventually need this one day. And I'll tell you this, I'm trying to decide where else to go with this process. For the most part, he has been completely absent. Um, Child support can't find him. The courts can't find him to serve him paperwork. I have been trying to get his address from his mother, who is doing a great job at hiding him. I sent sheriffs to his mother's house. I have informed the courts and child support here as much as I possibly can about his whereabouts and addresses of family members, and they still can't find him. Um, Last February, he actually showed up to Florida and turned himself in on the warrant, but was released the next day and went back to New York. Um, he was supposed to show up here for court and was insistent upon going to trial to fight me to say he did not violate the restraining order I did. Um, I submitted all the text, obviously, to the DA, to the state attorney, and was telling her the whole situation. He hired a lawyer who was insistent upon going to trial. He did not show up to both his dates, and he ended up just settling for a deal of probation and a battery intervention course. Um, so he's currently supposed to be serving probation, but he's in New York and nobody's really keeping tabs on him, so I'm not really sure how that works. And the address that he gave his probation officer and the courts is not his real address because they are sending paperwork and trying to serve him paperwork, and it is coming back that that is not where he actually lives. So he's in the ethers somewhere in New York, and his family is just allowing him to do that. Um, Once court was over and he got put on probation, I contacted the domestic violence shelter, whom I was actually very familiar with because it's in the area where I grew up in Syracuse. I contacted them and I forwarded the lady who runs it all the messages that were sent to me and to let her know she had a woman like that working for her. I don't know what came of that. I blocked her on social media as soon as I did all of that. So I don't know if she's still there or terminated or how they handled it. The email response I got that is it will be handled. So whatever. So at this point, in time right now. So this is a very Cliff Notes version of everything that transpired. But as of this point right now, like he's still missing. And I will be still so this week I am actually happy Valentine's Day for me. I'm self-filing for divorce and going to go through all the process of having somebody who is missing and not responding. Um, so thank God Florida's a no contest state, and I will get my divorce, whether he wants to respond or not. To wrap up the story, what I truly want to say is during this time period, I rebirthed myself 150 times. There was times where I was so exhausted from breastfeeding and having to figure out how to make money, how to make rent, how to feed my kids, how to do everything with no help, laying on my floor and not being able to get up. The levels of exhaustion that hit my fucking body, but I had to fucking get up anyway because there was no one else to do it. I've never felt so alone in my life. And in that void space, the only thing I had was my spirituality to get me through. What I have gone through in the last 2 years has been the biggest spiritual initiation of my life into what true goddess energy actually is. Goddess energy, feminine energy, has nothing to do with frolicking in fields. It is an actual battlefield. When you look at the goddesses, they are in battle, they yield swords. When I was in my darkest parts of this, and I knew that still I was the only one who was gonna do it, and I was the one who was gonna have to save myself out of this. That is when I truly had to embody a whole other part of me that I didn't know existed. I am expanded because of this in ways that I didn't know capable. I've met shadow sides of myself that I didn't know existed. While I was simultaneously going through all this, I was doing the deepest trauma healing, the deepest shadow work of my life. And I was also coaching other women through theirs. The level of expansion of the universe inside me is fucking insane right now. And through facing all of my fears in courts with my ex, with all of this shit, homelessness, no food, all of that, facing that over and over and over again has wired me in a way to be fearless. I have faced all of my traumas and fears over and over again while in the depths of postpartum. I have been so severely depressed during this time period while I was isolated with nobody, with trying to do all of this, with trying to make ends meet, and wondering how a system is so fucked up that a man can actually abandon a whole ass family, and that how a man can be that fucked in the head that he could create that family and then bounce without a fucking problem, without another thought in his head of how are they going to survive? What is my fucking son doing? The capacity that I have come to understand the shadow is at a whole other level. And it's a part of me that I have completely integrated. And because of that, I feel unfuckwithable now. There is nothing that somebody could say or do to me that I haven't already lived out in my head or in real life. And should a woman ever have to go through anything like this? No. But unfortunately, this is the fucking world we live in right now. And like I said before, my story is not unique. It is not unique in the slightest. I feel like I know more women that have gone through my scenario that have had some like happy, healthy postpartum. Our society is so fucking sick right now, and it's because how mothers are treated. Being a mother will stretch you to places you didn't know fucking existed. And in that, I am very grateful for. And I can look you in the eye right now and tell you, I don't know how many fucking days I have said to myself how much I fucking hate being a mom. That's the fucking truth of it. But I've integrated with that shit because I love it 10 times more. Being a mother has expanded me in areas I didn't know existed, like I said. It has made me capable of doing things I didn't know I was capable of. It has expanded me to experience love in ways that I never knew existed. It has also brought me to the depths of fucking hell because of what the situation at hand is. Women are truly the most amazing creatures on this planet. What we are capable of, birth alone, that we are capable of that, puts us at a higher authority. We are the better gender. We are the better sex. The fact that we can do that and then endure postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, raising children with no support, having the most terrible things happen to us while we are postpartum, and still wake up every day and take care of those fucking kids and make it work. I say this all the time. A man at his absolute best is a mediocre woman. What we are capable of just in motherhood alone is in fucking sane. I wouldn't trade this story for anything. And I can't tell you how sick I am of having to repeat the story to lawyers and courts and all of this shit because I don't place myself as a victim. I turned my situation to empower me because I'm a badass fucking woman, just like you are. And you have the power to do that because women have that capacity inside of us because we are the void. We have the capacity to do the shadow work that it entails to actually change. We have the capacity inside of us to bring a spirit into flesh. We have the capacity inside of us to be on 10 minutes of sleep and raise an entire fucking family and figure out how to make the money and run businesses and create empires and do that while being present mothers and soccer practice and laundry and cooking 3 meals a day. We somehow make it fucking work. And because of that, we deserve to be worshipped. And this is why I will always worship the goddess. And this is why I will always worship myself as the goddess, as you should too. You are worthy and deserving of worship. But the choices you will have to make in motherhood and what you endure in motherhood, it will be unique to you, and you deserve a crown for that shit. It is the most tiring, draining thing to do on this planet in the society of how it's set up right now. But this is why matriarchy needs to rise again. And this is why we need to come into community again and get rid of these bullshit narratives and work out the trauma we have around coming together as women. We need to work this shit out because I'm telling you right now, I would not have made it these last 2 years without my community of women who showed up for me. Even women that I didn't even fucking know who were willing to pay 75% of my goddamn rent so me and my kids had a roof over our head. I've still never met her in person. When women come together, we are unstoppable no matter what the scenario is. And we really need to start linking together again and being in this consciousness, not being like the bitch who's working in a domestic violence shelter helping men who are abusers. You need the kind of women that, and we need to be the kind of women. The community you're looking for, be that. See, what I had to realize was all of the women who were stepping up for me when I was down and out, it was because I had stepped in for them when they were down and out. It was just in a different way. I was their spiritual mentor and their guide in times when things were terrible for them. And as soon as they found out I was going through that, they did the same for me. It brings me to tears to think about this constantly. And basically, who I was to women got reflected back to me in my time of need. This is what we need to bring back in our society. We are going to fix our society by fixing ourselves and coming together and helping each other to get rid of the stupid gossip girl narrative, to meet in group, to support each other, to work through our issues of jealousy or the mother wound or whatever it is that we have. We need to work on this together and be open and honest about it because when we come together, we are unstoppable. And that's going to be the only thing that actually dismantles patriarchy. You're not going to fight patriarchy to get it out of the way. You have to stop being an active participant in it by deconstructing where patriarchy actually lives in your consciousness. And this whole separation of women and women being catty with each other is a patriarchal structure. You have to just do the inner work yourself, and it will automatically set you outside of that. And once more and more women start removing themselves from patriarchy, the system will automatically collapse because nobody's living in it anymore. The rise of matriarchy starts with us coming together and being together and supporting each other, like I have just told you in my story. So, was it a very shitty experience that I had to go through? Yes. Was there a lot of trauma that I had to work through? And from that whole situation, yes. I was very afraid to even be around men for months. I was scared to go out in public for months, but I worked through it. And I am 10,000 times happier now, even though I'm still struggling, even though I'm still trying to figure out how to work with no childcare for my son. His 1 hour nap window, I try to run an entire business. I actually was at the park today typing and pushing him on the swing, going like this. And this woman looked at me and she's like, "Are you working right now?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you do this all the time?" I'm like, "Every day I'm here because it's the only park that has Wi-Fi where I can entertain him and actually work." And she was like beside herself. Should I have to do that? No, but I can because I'm a woman and that's how strong I am. And even with the stress that I still have, because I'm still fucking stressed out up to here, a huge portion of me is still very much in survival mode. But I'm 10,000 times happier than I would have been in that fucking marriage. Yes, single motherhood comes with its fucking struggles, but it doesn't come with abuse. You will have the biggest glow up in your life when you decide to make that decision and choose yourself. And the healing journey that you will go on to make sure that will never happen to you a fucking again will be absolutely worth it. And you have to do it for the generation ahead of us because it's the only thing that will truly stop this from continuing. Want to be part of an online community filled with other badass women supporting each other on their wicked journey? Check out my online community, the Wise Woman Network. We have classes, courses, online community meetings, and more. Activate that sleeping goddess within and unleash your divine power. Join me today on a free trial to all my listeners. Link is in the show notes. I'll see you there.